Breakfast Tim Muffet is at a cafe in Birmingham. I'll have a tall flat white, please, Tim.
I'll bring one back. This is the kind of outside broadcast I like doing. Yes, we're talking about coffee culture. It's had a huge impact on our high streets over the last 20 years. There's the big chains, there's the smaller independent coffee shops just like this one. But how might a growing demand for quality coffee at home have an impact on places like this? And what about good old instant coffee? Does that have a future at all? We'll be finding out in about 20 minutes. First, though, the news, weather and the travel where you are.
Street has changed the way that we get our daily fix of coffee, but it seems we're beginning to turn our backs on instant coffee in the kitchen as well.
Breakfast Tim Muffet is at a cafe in Birmingham this morning, from reporter turned barista, possibly. Morning, Tim.
Indeed, yeah, going to you from the Sixeightkafe in Birmingham. And in a way, places like this typify the changes which have taken place to coffee over the last 20-odd years. Because going back to the early 90s, and, well, coffee culture didn't really exist as such, but then, of course, the big chains opened and that all changed. But more recently, more and more people, it seems, have been keen to experience better quality coffee at home. So how might that impact on places like this? And what about good old instant coffee? Does that have a future at all? I've been finding out. Every morning, Paul Davis wakes up and smells the coffee. But whilst the customers in the cafe he's run for 20 years would once make do with a cup of instant, they don't anymore.
No, it doesn't do it for me anymore. No, can't do it. No, I'll just drink my lattes and my espressos, that do, mate.
Prefer the taste of cappuccino.
I haven't drunk instant coffee since the early 1980s.
For a long time, we only had instant coffee, and it was either black or white. Who heard of a mocha 10, 12 years ago? Chocolate and coffee together.
I see on your menu you've got instant up there, £1.20. Do you sell many still?
No, not really.
The growth of the big-name coffee chains which took off in the 90s transformed our high streets, and also, it seems, our palates.
The British market has been very much defined by the fact that most people have traditionally drunk instant coffee, and that's very different from European markets. And suddenly people were exposed to freshly brewed coffee on a kind of mainstream level. That's where the decline started. I think people gradually got a taste for very good coffee, and then I think it is very, very hard to go back to instant once you're used to fresh coffee.
Instant coffee still outsells fresh coffee, but the fresh coffee market is growing faster, and age seems to play a big part. In one survey, 83% of coffee drinkers over 55 said they drunk instant in the past 6 months, far more than younger coffee drinkers, only around a half of whom had drunk it. And that's meant coffee makers have shot up in popularity. John Lewis has seen the sales of those which use capsules and pods go up by 36% year on year. The type which use fresh coffee beans have gone up by 55%, and they can cost thousands. The London Coffee Festival, where the movers, shakers and grinders of the coffee world meet. Amidst the artisan coffee makers and barista championships, the company which helped kick-start it all. Some people think that as a nation we've sort of almost become addicted to caffeine. Do you think Starbucks is partly responsible for that?
I wouldn't say that. No, I think people are just substituting their instant coffees or the old-style filter coffees for espresso-based drinks or the pod drinks at home.
I mean, you mentioned coffee at home there. I mean, in a way, doesn't that threaten the coffee shops on the high street? Because if people have got their pod machine at home, they're less likely to want to buy in a shop, aren't they?
No, I don't think so at all, actually. I think that coffee shop trip, whether that's because you're out shopping or whether it's a break at lunchtime, it is a break from the everyday norm. It's almost like a treat to go into those shops anyway.
A festival for a hot drink? Go back a few years, the concept would have been hard to swallow. But our appetite for coffee has taken many by surprise. It's meant there have been more and more big-name chains and more independent coffee shops as well, like the one I'm in this morning in Birmingham. Hannah, you're the manager here at Sixeightkafe. Do you worry that with more and more coffee makers at home and pod machines, people are going to be less likely to spend more money on coffee when they come out?
No, not at all, actually. What we're finding is that consumers are liking better quality products now, so they are spending more money on the better quality products, and they're not spending so much money on the less quality. And what's happening is they're getting more interested in coffee, and they're coming into the cafes for the ambience and the experience.
And do you think we're becoming sort of addicted to caffeine as a nation?
No, I don't think we're becoming addicted to caffeine. I think we do love caffeine, but I think what we're doing is we're starting to enjoy coffee more and understand it more. And so what we're doing is we're getting to know the better products.
And I guess it's that change in culture. I mean, we look around this morning, there's lots of people here, this high idea of a coffee culture. That just didn't really happen, did it, sort of, say, 20-odd years ago?
No, it didn't. I think 20-odd years ago, you know, people were just drinking coffee for the caffeine, and that was it. There was no experience around it, and now people are learning that it's much more of a fun thing to do, and it's a social thing.
OK, thanks very much indeed. Now, look at this. Check out this drink here. This is a pimped-up latte. Can I describe it as that? It's latte art. Is it difficult to do?
A little bit of experience and know-how, no. A bit of time, anyone can do something like that.
There you go. A sign of how far coffee has come over the last few years. Art on your coffee, and, well, as we were hearing, many people do think that a love of coffee at home might make people less likely to spend more money when they come to a high street. Others, though, are pretty confident that they can coexist, and as Hannah was saying, it actually encourages people to drink more coffee when they come out.
Turning their backs on jars of instant coffee and getting the purer stuff instead. Breakfast, Tim Muffet is at a cafe in Birmingham to tell us more.
I need you to bring something back, Tim.
I'm drinking for 3 this morning, OK? I'm drinking for 3. This is like my 5th, I think, of the morning. Anyway, coffee culture, it's really kind of transformed our high streets over the last 15 years. There's been the rise of the big chains and also independent coffee shops like the one I'm in this morning in Birmingham. But how might a growing demand for quality coffee at home impact on places like this? And what about instant coffee? Does that have a future at all? We shall be asking these questions in about 20 minutes. First, though, the news, weather and the travel where you are.
We've turned our backs on instant coffee in the kitchen as well, apparently. Breakfast Tim Muffet is the lucky one at a cafe in Birmingham. Have you had a tall, flat white, or has it been a big, juicy cappuccino? Just taunting me now, Tim.
Look at these lovely, tasty beans, Susanna. What a day to give up coffee you chose. Yeah, welcome to you from the 6-8 in Birmingham city centre. And in a way, places like this kind of illustrate the changes which have happened to the whole coffee industry over the last 15, 20 years. Because going back to the early 90s, there wasn't really a coffee culture as such. Along came the big chains, and then that all changed. However, more recently, there's been a growing demand for quality coffee at home. So how might that impact on places such as this? And what about good old instant coffee? Does that have a future at all? I've been finding out. And that's seen more and more big-name chains open up and more independent coffee shops like the one I'm in this morning in Birmingham. Hannah, you're the manager here. There's a real danger, though, Hannah, isn't there, that if people buy coffee makers at home, they're less likely to spend money on coffee when they come out shopping?
Yeah, I suppose you would think that, but what we're finding more is that people are getting more interested in the coffee, so then they're coming into the coffee shops where they get the ambience and experience, but they're being able to talk to our baristas, and they're able to learn about different techniques and get advice on different beans and things like that.
Do you think we are becoming slightly addicted to caffeine?
I think we're not necessarily getting more addicted. I think we're becoming a bit more addicted, if you will, to the culture around it. We're spending our money more carefully at the moment, and we want to spend it on more quality products. So I find that people are they like their daily routine and coming in and having a coffee.
Okay, Hannah, thanks ever so much indeed. I mean, you talked about the machines at home, for example. Look at this one here. This is a new type of cafetiere, which is becoming very popular. They use it to make coffee in this cafe, and also these are becoming quite popular amongst shoppers as well. It's a kind of example, if you like, of just how big a deal coffee is now becoming, and the idea that it's hoped cafes like this think that they can coexist. People can enjoy quality coffee at home, also come out and be prepared to spend quite a bit of money on a cup of coffee out as well.
Tim, you've worked your magic. In the past 3 minutes, Susanna's given up giving up coffee. She's just asked for one. There you go.
If that was your personal mission, then you have succeeded. Tim, thanks very much.
Yes, good morning to you from 6-8 Cafe in Birmingham city centre, where coffee culture is thriving, as you can see. You go back 20 years, it didn't really exist, but the chains came along and changed all that, and more independent coffee shops as well. But what impact might a demand for quality coffee at home have on places like this? And what about good old instant coffee? Does that have a future at all? We'll be finding out in about 20 minutes. First, the news, weather and the travel where you are.
Tim.
Morning.
Yes, good morning to you. The caffeine buzz is kicking in, I have to say. Good morning from the 6-8 Cafe in Birmingham. And in a way, places like this kind of well, illustrate just how coffee has changed over the last 15, 20 years. Coffee culture, it didn't really exist as we know it today, but the big chains started in the mid-90s, and small independent cafes as well, like this one, have boomed as well. But here's the thing, more recently there's been a growing demand for quality coffee at home. So how might that impact on places like this? And what about good old instant coffee? Remember that? How's that going to be affected? I've been finding out. And that's driven the growth of the big name brands we're familiar with on the high street, and also the smaller independent coffee shops like the one we're in this morning in Birmingham. Hannah is the manager. Isn't there a danger that if people are making quality coffee at home, they're less likely to spend money on coffee when they go out?
No, I don't think so at all. I think if they're spending money at home, that means that they're actually enjoying coffee more and they're liking their coffee. So they are more likely to come in somewhere like here and try what we have to offer.
Coffee has become a greater part of so many people's lives. It is addictive, isn't it? Caffeine is addictive. Are we becoming addicted to it, do you think?
I think we are becoming addicted to the culture. There are many people who can't go without their morning coffee, for example, so I think there is that element. But I don't know if perhaps it's more the experience of making the coffee, of drinking the coffee.
Okay, let's talk about the popular types of coffee. Now, right on cue, I think I've got a flat white on order. If you could bring the flat white around so I can have a little look at that. This is now the most popular type of coffee which you sell, isn't it? Why is this taking... I mean, this is a few years ago. We didn't have these, did we?
No, we didn't have this before. This is a much shorter sort of latte, if you will. It's a double shot of espresso, 6-ounce cup, and it shows the quality of the coffee, the taste of the beans, and it's really showing off the best aspects of what we have to sell.
Because they were popular in Australia and New Zealand, weren't they, before they were introduced here? And I guess you've got to make yourself different from the big name brands. How do independent coffee shops do that?
Well, I think it's really important, again, the quality of the product, the training. We're able to spend a lot more time on training the staff, and also the customer service. We're able to, we know people by name. We know their drink once they walk in the door. And I don't know if the bigger chains are able to do that because they have to hit such high numbers. They don't get to spend as much time with each person.
Okay, Hannah, thanks ever so much indeed. Thank you also for the... I've been indulging a little bit of coffee this morning, as you might expect. And Susanna, what a morning to give up coffee, though I think you were saying you've rescinded on that?
I have no resolve.
No resolve. You've given in.
In the face of your relentless cappuccino, I have given in.
Yes.
Tim, thank you so much, and thanks to all your guests as well.